Brazil's story began long before European ships arrived in 1500. For thousands of years, many different groups of indigenous people lived here, each with their own language, beliefs, and a strong connection to the land. The Tupi-Guarani, who were among the first to meet the Portuguese, lived in villages along the coast, growing crops and respecting the spirits of nature. When Pedro Álvares Cabral's ships landed, it was a major turning point, an event that would change the land and its people forever. At first, exchanges were careful, with indigenous peoples trading natural resources for European goods, not knowing about the big changes that were coming. Soon, the Portuguese started taking land, showing their power and causing great harm to indigenous people through violence and sickness. Their ways of life were crushed, lands were stolen, and whole communities were broken apart. The lively world that had thrived for thousands of years began to fall apart because of the Europeans' desire for more land and power. Portugal's control grew stronger as sugarcane farms, called engenhos, were built along the coast, needing endless hard work. When trying to make indigenous people their slaves didn't work, the Portuguese turned to Africa, bringing over 4 million enslaved Africans to Brazil. These men and women suffered terrible cruelty, yet they resisted through their culture by rebelling and by creating quilombos, free communities like Palmares. In the 1700s, gold and diamonds were found in Minas Gerais, starting a rush that made Brazil even more dependent on slavery. Cities like Ouro Preto grew rich, but the wealth built on forced labor made unfairness and suffering even worse. Slavery became the main support of Brazil's economy, shaping its society for many generations. Brazil's path to becoming an independent country was special. In 1808, running away from Napoleon, the Portuguese royal family moved to Rio, making Brazil the center of their empire. When the king went back to Portugal, his son Dom Pedro stayed, refusing orders to return, and, in 1822, declared Brazil's independence with the famous Cry of Ipiranga. Brazil became an empire, not a republic, with Dom Pedro I as emperor, keeping the old social order and slavery in place. His rule was difficult, leading to him giving up his power and Dom Pedro II taking over. Dom Pedro II's long reign brought modern changes but struggled with the problem of slavery. Only in 1888 was slavery finally ended with the signing of the Golden Law. The empire was close to its end, as ending slavery made powerful rich people angry. Brazil's time as an empire finished, but the fight for fairness and equality was far from over. The end of slavery in 1888 caused the empire to fall. In 1889, a military takeover declared Brazil a republic, but real power stayed with rich coffee growers. The old republic was marked by people being left out, and unfairness, with most Brazilians not having a say in politics. The 1930 revolution brought Getúlio Vargas to power. He modernized Brazil and made changes to help workers, but he also ruled like a dictator. After a short time of democracy, a military takeover in 1964 started 20 years of military rule, which brought economic growth but also censorship, torture, and fear. The pain from this harsh rule was deep, and the hope for democracy seemed far away. Yet, underneath it all, the desire for freedom continued. Brazil's 20th century was a difficult search for its identity and for fairness. In the 1980s, the movement for democracy, Direitos Já, ended military rule, leading to a new constitution in 1988 and a hopeful new beginning. Brazil became an important country on the world stage, reducing poverty and impressing everyone with its culture, music, and carnival. Yet big differences between rich and poor, corruption and violence still exist, especially for Afro-Brazilians and indigenous peoples. The Amazon rainforest faces serious dangers, threatening both the environment and the lands of its original inhabitants. Brazil's journey is one of strength, shaped by meetings, conflicts, and creativity. Its people continue to fight for fairness, opportunities, and a better future. The story of Brazil is still being written. It's lively, complicated, and always changing.